everyone, welcome to the podcast. My name's Mia Burrell. I usually don't introduce myself for some reason. I tend to forget that, but that's my name anyway. And so we have a podcast mentor program here at NRCH where I guide people through the process of producing a podcast from beginning to end. And today we have a Chute who's going to be hosting the podcast today as part of the production process. And you may recognize her voice as she's been on some of the podcasts before. And a Chute has a background in psychology. You have a bachelor?
Yeah, Bachelor of Psychology. Yeah, I was in, the family violence podcast, which was, one of the most powerful podcasts I've probably been in.
So you're going to be hosting this one today. So what's on the agenda today?
Yeah, just today, the theme for International Women's Day is Break the Bias. And today we're discussing this topic with health professionals at North Richmond Community Health, focusing on women's mental health in the community, the attitudes of mental health in different cultures, and addressing the barriers women face to receive support.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm excited
about your podcast
for this series of podcasts.
Yeah.
Yep, and hopefully I'll become a pro,
You're well on your way.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
I'll let my guests introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Faiza. I work for Hara. I'm a nurse.
Hello, my name is Nazik Nasser, and I manage the Counselling and Casework program here at North Richmond Community Health.
My name is Chores, and I work with Healthy Communities team at North Richmond Community Health. What things impacts on women's mental health?
I mean, we all know that having good mental health is essential to the overall health of both men and women. However, women do experience mental health conditions at a higher rate than men. And that is because more women than men are carers. And that could lead to stress and anxiety and isolation. More women than men live in poverty, which along with concerns about personal safety and working mainly in the home can lead to social isolation. Women, unfortunately, also experience physical and sexual abuse, which can have a long-term impact on their mental health, and experience sexual violence, which can cause PTSD. It's also important to refer to some of the stats in Australia here, with more women than men, of course, experiencing mental health. But 1 out of 3 women in Australia experience mental health issues, and that includes depression, anxiety, and so on.
Yeah, I think, yes, I agree, Naz, especially with the women being carers, it's quite significant. I see a lot of women's in the community, their mental health is jeopardized, because they're doing all of the emotional labor and all of the caring, and that role is just they automatically fall onto, and most of the time everything within the family they rely on them. And counseling and casework team what are the most common issues that women come to see counselors in your team?
I mean, we have a range of issues that women in particular come to seek support for. And a lot of it is, of course, mental health issues, but also stemmed from issues around access to services or issues that they're experiencing at home, their own physical well-being, physical health. It could be an issue in relation to housing, employment within their workplace. So it really is varied. And we see quite a lot of that, unfortunately, in our communities. But they are real issues that women experience on a daily basis.
Yeah. Since we're talking about break the bias, how do negative gender roles impacts women's mental health? So in regard to, CALD, communities, and relating back to your own experience and your own cultural experience, for example, things that I've, grown with is that daughters are expected to do all the chores at home and, and sometimes you're told when you're 11 or 12 years old, why are you playing or something like that when you're still a child. But however, these roles are often thrown at you from a young age. So what negative gender roles have you come across?
I'll speak about actually my own personal experience being a CALD woman. I moved to Australia in 2003. The youngest family member out of 7. So some of those things that you've talked about, Achut, already have come from mixed heritage. Both my parents are from North and East Africa. So living in a household along with other brothers and sisters, my experience has been exactly some of the things you've talked about. And we see time and time again in our experiences, even in our life experiences and in our professional experiences as well, with women always expected to do more. Women are expected to kind of, like you said, do the house chores without the expectation of maybe male brothers and brothers doing the same. And we're expected to be the understanding, we're the ones who are nurturers. And so these roles are kind of thrown at us.
For me, I've met a lot of like young Sudanese and South Sudanese girls who've to a point, and they're a lot younger than me, to a point where they say they're really tired and they want to move out of the home for their mental health because they're constantly like looking after like children and not putting themselves first and things like that. And there's sometimes negative backlash around that, like, because culturally you're not expected to move out of home until you get married and everything like that. Or Faiza, you can speak about your experience. Are you the oldest child?
Yeah, I am actually. I'm the oldest child of 9 kids.
Yeah.
I've got 5 brothers, 4 sisters. It's different, especially, you're meant to, even though I grew up here, women are, you're meant to look after the kids. If mom goes out to do something or you expected to clean, even though my parents, they're very strict. Boys and girls do the same thing. If Faiza washes the dishes today, my other brother will do it tomorrow. So, it's good. Like, my parents had the knowledge of, raising us that way from other friends or family members, girls have to do more stuff than boys.
Yeah.
Clean the house, and boys are told, they're a boy, they get to play outside, which is wrong. Yeah.
I was wondering, like, how can we encourage in breaking these kind of habits in the home of women being expected to do a lot? How can we take off the load of women?
It starts with education always. But of course we know with that there needs to be a sense of safety in order to call it out, and without feeling like there are implications for that.
Yeah.
But as much as possible we do, in my own personal life or even in my professional life, is to encourage people to call it out, to explain that this is not okay.
Yeah.
And to also provide people with the opportunity to speak about it, to seek out support around that. I think a lot of things obviously start with education and just, naming the wrong.
Yeah. And I think as well, like going back to, Faiza's upbringing, she grew up basically in a very like supportive home where like the girls do the dishes and the boys do the dishes as well, like just removing gender from a lot of like the domestic chores and encouraging like parents that just because like girls do it, there's always this assumption that girls are better at it and they do it very quickly and things like that. And then the boys act dumb that they can't do anything, so like it falls on the girls. So just encouraging parents to also assign chores to their to boys.
I agree with that. That's what Naz and Achut said. It's always to teach them from young, being a parent myself, I have 3 boys, 1 girl. If my oldest is a boy, so I tell him, oh, mommy, you do this today. And then tomorrow it's my daughter's turn. The other day, they take turns, they learn that. So they, starting them from young age and teaching them, it's very important.
Yeah, I remember. And just like also just going back to an anecdote, when I used to work in childcare, there's a lot of the time, they ask the children, what's mom making for dinner, kind of thing. And I remember this little child was saying, no, my dad does all the cooking. So I was just that part, quite powerful that she said that. And, you know, her dad is actually the better cook, you know, at home. So, yeah.
And that's, I think, where it's important in every aspect of our daily life to challenge those things, whether it's at school. And, you know, kudos to schools who need to kind of start a lot of the education very early on. But there is an opportunity for learning and
definitely agree. We're in the North Richmond Community Room celebrating International Women's Day. And we're going to ask you, Anastasia, what does mental health mean to you?
Yeah, it's interesting question because I'm from Russia, and actually Russian people, they're very close nation, and it's not common to show emotions there. And I think it's quite also the problem because then you cannot express your emotion. And since a childhood, people told you you have to be strong all the time. You cannot show that. You have to be like polite and everything is all right all the time. And you have to be perfect. It's not easy. It's how we are. Yeah, but now I think it's a bit changed. And I feel that change, like for being in Australia for 2 years, I really feel that support from community. And I think my life has changed a lot. I think more important to have like support, to really talk about that and asking for help, as I say. Because yeah, for me personally, it was not easy at all. And sometimes you just need to talk with people around and really explain your situation and say, oh, you know, I feel like this, or maybe your words hurts me, and talk about like the bias what probably some other people tell you or try to bully you, but it's all the time it's something else will understand you and will say, oh, look, you're beautiful, look, you're amazing person, you're skilled, and you try to find your people, like at your work and your friends, like everywhere, and just say no to those people who is not respect yourself.
So we're back on the studio for the second part of our podcast. You know, women are very vulnerable to depression in the postnatal and pre-menopause years and in the years immediately after menopause. So like going back to, and often that happens to, being like in the caring role after you give birth. So I'm generally asking, you know, this is more targeted towards you, Naz, and as well, Faiza, you can chip in. Can you expand on this, and why is there not a focus on this in women's health? Like, why aren't women being told that you might be vulnerable in these stages?
I mean, I think there is a combination of physical and social and emotional change as a result of going through these stages of life. And as a woman, and without having good support systems in place, could lead to implications around your mental health. It's important to provide the support either through, and we talk always with women about their own support networks, that they start there with have that conversation with the people that you trust and that will provide you that confidentiality. Friends, a close family member, people in your community.
Like, for example, me, like I've had children, and it's after you give birth, obviously, you know, it's one of the, because hormonal change, and you know, the baby's going to be up all night. You expected to feed him and still get up in the morning and look after the other children, take them to school. But if you have that good support and talk to your doctor, your counselor, or if you experience any postnatal depression, if you get the good support, I think that would help, especially in the African communities. They like, if it's a stigma, if you say, oh, I've got depression, you know, they'll say, you know, oh, you know, she's crazy, or I think now they're starting to understand. I was having a chat with one of the, just came from outreach, I think was saying about, you know, how a lot of women are starting to understand depression, and since COVID happened, you know, they're starting to get help, which is good. So we need to, you know, create that space and have most of those talks with women, and
And I also just wanted to talk about how some of those experiences don't happen in isolation as well. Often there could be a lot of factors that are happening interlinked with all of these. Either there is unhealthy family dynamics that are happening during some of those really big changes for a woman. Could be that things at work are not going very well. It could be that a woman is experiencing family violence at home. Could be a single mother with no supports.
What more work do you think should be done towards like addressing like the menopause stages for women? And because sometimes I met like a lot of women from my community when they were not aware of like menopausal symptoms. And then when they tell you that this is what I'm having, like I wake up at night, I'm sweating and all these things. And like once you tell them that this is very normal for their age, like they're very surprised because it's almost like they haven't heard this before. How can we educate them better about these things?
Projects like the ones you're working in, Achut, where you're reaching out to the community, you're having that direct touch point with people, and being kind of the starting point of opening some of those conversations and referral point to services that people can approach is, I think, a really good place to start as well.
Yeah, I also often like encourage women to talk to their GP and just about, their hormonal changes so they can get them explained better, because a lot of the time the starting point is the doctor, because when they feel these things, they either go to the doctor or like the hospital. Some people do. And just the final, questions like where can women find support?
So, I mean, I spoke about earlier around tapping into existing support networks a woman has already, whether it being a family member or a friend, a work colleague. But also, as you said before, Achut, as well, GP, primary health counsellors. There's also services like Lifeline. The number is 131114. There's also Suicide Line 1300 651 251. There's also a service called Head to Health, which is a service that's available for people to speak about their experiences of mental health with a professional that will listen and be able to sort of explain where the best place is to go. Of course, North Richmond Community Health Centre, our Counselling and Casework program, and our phone number is 03 9418 9800. There are so many also after-hour and weekend services that women can contact. Some of those are Beyond Blue, which is 1-800-512-348, 1-800-RESPECT, and that's for women who are impacted by sexual assault, domestic and family violence abuse, and that's 1-800-555-677. There's also Safe Steps, 1-800-015-188. Sexual Assault Crisis Line, 1-800-806-292. And there's also Kids Helpline for young people aged 5 to 25 years old. And the number is 1-800-55-1800.
I think you've covered it all pretty much. I think, the only thing I would like to mention as well with these services, this is Parent Line is 132289, and it's a free phone support for parents offering counselling and support on parenting issue. And there's one called PANDA, which is Prenatal Anxiety and Depression Australia. So the number for that is 1300-726-306. So thank you guys all for coming today to the International Women's Day podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks,
for the
Ajot, for
opportunity.
having us.
So it's just you and I in the studio now. What do you think are the main takeaways of #BreakTheBias?
So sometimes a lot of the things we do like are unconscious. So referring to like, asking children about like who takes care of them and all these things. Sometimes most of these questions are targeted about your mom instead of like, also talking about how like, the dad coming to pick you up or like
rubbish.
Yeah. Yeah, I call rubbish, because it's a lot of emotional labor and we don't realize how just being in the caring role constantly can also drain your mental health. Often, like, men play stupid, like, to get away from responsibility when they're not, So kind of like, I'm not going to, do a chore properly because then after that, like, somebody will be like, oh, okay, like that, you often hear the word, oh, men, or like, oh, dads, hey. So kind of thing. So like that kind of.
I think there's a term called willful incompetence.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that term, willful incompetence. And I think, they're playing it quite, so we have to catch on to that they are actually, they're competent. And
it sounds like it kind of intersects with the concept of masculinity, because if you do the dishes, then you're like a girl, and that means you're bad.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah, that's the other issue, I think.
Yeah.
So this is the end of the podcast. I thought we would wrap it up with the final word. So what's the final word today?
Yeah. How can people break the bias? Because everyone has a role to play, in breaking the bias, whether you're a school teacher or like just, a father in the home. And like just everyone has a part.